All right. So it's next week's an exciting week for the organization. It starts with what we've got going on in the building. Obviously, we've had 2 weeks with our guys back in Berea, and next week I was thinking about it. It's pretty cool. We get to see real football on the grass, and like thinking back to 2020, the last time we had a new head coach, for guy just got wiped out because of COVID. So this is pretty cool. And so that transitions right into draft weekend, where we have a great opportunity to add a number of young players to the roster. It's the culmination of 13, 14 long months of hard work. And as I always do with this, time of year, just our college scouts, they're awesome. And scouting can be a thankless profession where you're always away from your family, traveling, doing all the foundational work, for the roster building, make a ton of sacrifices. And I always like to just highlight, our college scouts, our area scouts, our national scouts who do such a great job for us. And, they really are the backbone and foundation of everything. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
There's a lot of buzz about you guys trading down from number 6. And just wondering the biggest report, rumor, hearsay, whatever, is a trade down to number 12 with the Cowboys. So just wondering, can you address just the likelihood of moving down, and is there anything to that particular deal?
I'd go back to what I've said in the past. Like our mindset, going into the draft, with our most valuable asset, isn't about, hey, just trade it away or trade it. It's maximizing the asset, and that can at different times take different forms. It can be selecting a player, it could be trading it for a veteran, it could be trading down, it could be trading up, and so we will continue to work through all those possibilities. Up until really we get on the clock on Thursday night. So, but I'd say Mary Kay, we're working through a number of different scenarios at this point.
As you kind of play out the scenarios, is this as obviously everybody seems to knows who's going number 1, but 2 through 5, is it as uncertain maybe in terms of who could go where as you've seen in a while?
I wouldn't say that that's necessarily the case, Chris, and more from the perspective that I think at times there's an assumption externally that we know where players are going to go, and I think oftentimes that's not the case. Look, I'm not in the buildings of the teams that are picking 1 through 5. None of us are. And so I think to assume that in any year that the way it's going, again, besides obviously perhaps Mendoza, I think that's maybe a dangerous mindset to have.
Idea is the approach different this year because it's 6 instead of 2? I know you had the talks ahead of the draft last year with the Jaguars. Do you have to wait, or the other team have to wait to see what happens 1 through 5 before you could pull off that trade?
I love how everybody last year thought we weren't trading down, and everybody this year assumes we are. I'd say this, Scott, every year is unique because the players change, your pick location change, demand, may change. So the general answer to your question is yes, the dynamics are different. But even if we were picking 2 again this year, I'd give you the same answer. Yeah.
Had that mentality of maybe not being married to a position in the draft. How maybe do these early first-round picks and the draft capital that you have shift it at all? Is it still the mindset of best player available, or knowing that you have needs in areas, does it kind of change the focus?
It doesn't change the focus, Kim, because every team has needs. And, like last year at this point, I wouldn't have assumed that our first 2 picks would have been a 3 technique and an off-the-ball linebacker. And the good thing is, I say this every year, every draft class has good players. And the first order of business is to get players that you think have the potential to be a quality starter or a difference maker, particularly when you're picking high. And I'd say the other thing is, ultimately, you want unique players, when you're picking this high, because they're difficult they're not difficult to identify, but they're very difficult to find. Or excuse me, they're not difficult to identify, but they're very difficult to acquire. And the draft is one of those opportunities. So I think oftentimes the public discourse on the draft focuses on need, as if NFL teams go into the draft and saying, hey, look, I'm just going to pick the best this player, because that's how our roster looks today. When the reality of it is these players, they're longer term investments for your organization.
What about a player like Jeremiah Love, who just seems so unique in his playmaking ability and can do so many different things? What's it like to evaluate a prospect like him?
Yeah, he's special. I think if you look, actually, you think about some of the, let's say, dual threat backs that the league has had. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey may be the poster child for that. Jahmyr Gibbs may be kind of the next generation of that. Jeremiah certainly has a lot of those abilities and capabilities. He's a very dynamic prospect.
Research, Andrew, on the pros and cons of trading down, like historically, how those kinds of moves work.
Yeah, we have. And not just trading down, trading up, moving around the board, what you can expect at different pockets of each round in the draft, and like what your odds are ultimately of hitting on a starter, hitting on a role player. So that all factors into it for sure.
What have you discovered about moving from 6?
I can't share all my secrets, Jeff. So you're first. Then
You see guys like Jeremiah and Caleb Downs ranked near the top of every big board, and yet they are in some cases not projected to go towards the back end of the top 10. Have we overthought positional value in some cases? Like, shouldn't some of the best players just go sooner?
I guess just specifically you're asking like the league, the media.
Positional value and how it impacts.
Well, listen, look, all positions aren't created equal, but like ultimately you are looking for for difference makers and elite level talent. Perfect example again is Carson last year. Does he play one of the more traditional premium positions? No, but he has a premium skill set in that position and can make a huge difference.
You said we assume that you'll trade down, and we probably do. do you think your peers think that, or is that something that can affect communication in the next week?
I don't think it really affects communication. I can't tell you what they think honestly, Zach, but I don't see it affecting communication. It's a good question, but I don't see it affecting communication.
Last year, you said that when you made the trade back from 2 to 5, you got the extra first-round pick. You said that you envisioned the 2026 draft would be stronger within the first 30 picks. Do you still hold that belief? And I know some other GMs have said that they think that the talent pool and the first-round talent pool kind of dies down midway through. I think Jerry Jones said he has 20 draftable first-round grades. Do you kind of agree with those sentiments?
I think it's a good class. I mean, I think probably in most years you probably have around, however people want to categorize their first round grades, probably, maybe anywhere from 18 to 20, something along those lines. So I don't think that's necessarily an anomaly. I also think that we're all probably colored by the prism of our positioning within the draft, like whether you're picking high, maybe, what some of the positions you'd like to have, come to you in the draft. Like we're all probably colored by that perspective in terms of in terms of how you view the draft. But I think there are really good players throughout, this year's class. I think it's a good group.
At this point, it seems like every year, next year's quarterback class is gonna be the class.
I agree. I think you hear that publicly all the time.
Okay, so why does that phenomenon exist?
Honestly, I mean this respectfully. I think you should ask your counterparts in that regard. So I think, it's funny. I think every year I sit up here and I'm always asked the question. It's like, okay, well, I hear next year's class is going to be better. Next year's class is going to be I don't subscribe to that notion. I think there will be a number of good players that come from this year's class.